Hello, welcome back. Welcome back to the Get Fit, Get Healed healing course. And I am super excited. So today, just really briefly, I'm going to do a small teaching on the triple A method. Now, this is what I have called the triple A method. It's a very unique process on how you are going to get through each and every trauma that you discover during this phase, during this course, during your life, right? What is AAA? So in America, AAA is a company that you call when your car is abandoned on the side of the road. Your car breaks down on the highway. You call AAA to come and get you. They will come and get you off of the side of the road. Excuse me for a minute, y'all. I have to close that door. I don't know if y'all could hear my children are downstairs watching TV, but AAA will come and rescue you. Basically, they have the ability to tow your car to another destination. They know how to fix flat tires if you have a flat tire on the side of the road. So it's a service that you pay for monthly to come and assist you whenever your car goes down or breaks, right when you have an issue. And so, lips are dry, and so I take care of that. That feels much better. So, AAA, when you call AAA, you are on the side of the road. And so, although we're not calling that AAA, we are going to AAA our traumas. So, I have a step for each A in AAA. And what I want you to think about when you're doing this is when you're stuck on the side of the road, your car breaks down, you're on the highway, you have to call AAA. They then will fix your car on the spot and or tow you to a local mechanic of some kind in order to get your car back on the road and into traffic normally. And so this is what we want to do with our trauma. When we are broken down on the side of the road, we're broken down in life. We've been boggled down. Our car is in need of maintenance. Our life is in need of maintenance. Do you see the correlation? Our life is in need of maintenance. It is broken down. We can't go any further. We need to call AAA so that they can come and do what we need them to do to get us back up on the road and back in the flow of traffic. So in other words, we need to call and do the AAA method in order to get us back on this right scheme of life, to get us back on track, to get us back in normal society, happy, flowing and driving freely and getting to our next destination, right? So that is what I want you to think about when you're going through the AAA method. What is AAA method? So the first A of my AAA method is acknowledgement. You first have to acknowledge that you have even been through trauma. What do I mean by that? So many people are afraid to acknowledge that they've been through their trauma. They like to sweep it under the rug, if you will. And you'll hear me use this example quite a few times. You sweep things under the rug, right? Because you don't want to remember them. You don't want to talk about them. You don't want to address them. So you just sweep it under the rug. And you go on and put on a mask and act as if it no longer bothers you. It no longer shows itself present in your life. And what happens to that rug when you put a bunch of dirt and you pile a bunch of mess under that rug? In this instance, trauma, depression, shame, guilt, frustration, insecurity, right? When you place all of those things under a rug, eventually what happens to that rug, which it originally laid flat on the ground, it's going to start being unleveled, right? Lumpy and bumpy. And when you're standing on unleveled ground, what happens? You eventually fall over. You eventually are going to trip and fall. So this is where we are. We have tripped and fell because we have not acknowledged the trauma that we've been through. We have not acknowledged the depression or the signs and symptoms that we're facing, the frustrations, the emotions. And so now we're unleveled, we're bumpy and lumpy in life, and now we've tripped over and we don't know whether we're coming or going. So your first step when you call AAA is to actually acknowledge that you have the trauma. It is time to stop acting like it didn't exist, and it's time to acknowledge that it happened to you. It happened to you, whether you wanted it to or not, whether it was your fault or not, whether someone else caused it or not, it is time to acknowledge that it happened to you. Second step is to accept that it happened to you. Acceptance, right? Many times We have things happen to us, but we don't accept that it happened to us. And the question is always, why me? And so in this instance, this is where I want you to turn that question around and ask yourself, why not me? Right? Why not me? Why would it not happen to me? And I don't want you to take that out of context, right? I'm not saying that it should have happened to you. A lot of these tragedies and traumatic experiences, absolutely I wouldn't wish on anyone in the world. But in order for us to gain authority and move past, we got to quit being the victim. I need you to get out of the victim mindset and take control. And when you can control what has happened to you because you've acknowledged that it's happened, now you've accepted that it's happened to you, you can ask your question of why not me? In that instance, I want you to ask yourself this: why not me? Why would I not be chosen to go through this trauma and help someone else get through this trauma? Why would I not be chosen to evolve past this trauma? Why would God not allow me to go through this experience enough to help me grow and grow past the trauma, right? So this is how we begin to take our authority back. Because what you're not afraid of to admit anymore, because you've acknowledged it, and now you're not even afraid to accept that it happened to you, tell me, the devil has no grounds to continue to keep you bound. Our last and final A is accountability. I need you in this stage to take accountability for keeping yourself bound in your trauma. Not take accountability for the trauma that happened to you. That's not what I'm saying. I'm not saying you indeed were the victim. But how many times do we stay a victim longer than we should have because we don't take accountability for keeping ourselves there? What do I mean by that? Another example, as I stated, you sweeping things under the rug. Instead of you addressing it head on, instead of you getting in the ring and fighting that head on, you choose to continue to not address it. You continue to hide it. You continue to hide your emotions. And in that, you are now being accountable and holding yourself hostage in your own trauma. You have now just become the oppressor in your own oppression. I need you to go back through each trauma that you have had and then take accountability on how long you've kept yourself bound in that situation. I'll give you an example. For me, I was sexually assaulted as a young girl. I was 14 years old. I kept myself bound because I didn't release myself from it until I was 36 years old. I didn't tell a soul. I didn't tell a parent. I didn't tell anyone that it had happened to me. And so for 20-something years, right, I kept myself bound in that trauma, dealing with the pain by myself, dealing with the emotions by myself, carrying it from one relationship to the next, one friendship to the next, the anger, the frustration, the insecurity, right? Because I wouldn't deal with it, because I didn't take accountability in not freeing myself from it. So I want you to go back through your trauma and decide and identify how you're keeping yourself accountable in your own trauma. That is your AAA method. So each and every trauma, each and every time you are going through something traumatic, I want you to call AAA. I want you to acknowledge that it happened first. I want you to accept that it happened to you. And then I want you to see how you're keeping yourself accountable and bound in your own trauma. Once you have those tools, you have everything that you need to then overcome your trauma. And that is what we're doing. We need just a little bit of assistance to get us back into the flow of traffic, to get us back on the road and back on the highway, driving into regular day-to-day life in order to overcome our obstacles, trials and tribulations, and hindrances. So I ask you to do this. I ask you, as you go through your trauma, as you write down the traumas that you remember in your life, you then begin to AAA it. I want you to not only write it down and acknowledge that it happened, but go through step 2, accept that it happened to you. How do you accept that it happened to you? Again, ask yourself the question, why not me? Then, how do you keep yourself accountable in your own trauma and keeping yourself bound in your own trauma? Once you identify that you are making those steps and those mistakes, then you have the ability, the authority to change them. So if you're not speaking up, if you're in depression and not identifying it as depression, If you've lost your emotion, meaning some people stop crying altogether, other people cry a lot. Which spectrum are you on? But when you can identify that that's what it is, now you haven't dealt with those things, now you have the authority to change them. So I want you to call AAA this week, AAA your traumas, and we'll discuss that in our next course class, or the next time we meet, how AAA is allowing you so much revelation in your trauma and in your healing process. Take care.